Hello everyone, welcome to my review of the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Doctor Strange.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly.
Before I get into my review, I just want to say that there will not be any plot spoilers, or at least I will do my very best not to spoil any of the plot at all. The film is directed by Scott Derrickson, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Tilda Swinton, Benedict Wong, and Mads Mikkelsen. The film is centered around Benedict Cumberbatch's character, known as Dr. Stephen Strange, who is this masterful neurosurgeon who relies heavily on his abilities and his intelligence and specifically his hands. And one day when he loses the use of his hands because of a massive car accident, he is forced to go on kind of this existential journey to develop a new set of skills. And these new set of skills are skills in the mystical arts or magical arts. First, I would like to talk about the positive aspects of the film. I'll delve into the negatives a little later on because there are some negative aspects to this film. First of all, I want to say, this is a fantastic cast when it comes to just pure acting ability. Benedict Cumberbatch, Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Mads Mikkelsen, Tilda Swinton, these are all fantastic actors, and they do a fantastic job in this film. All of them collectively, specifically Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, really steals the film every time she is on screen. She is able to bring such great, genuine gravitas to this role, and I know there was a lot of outcry initially when it came to the whitewashing of this character, because this character typically in the comic books is an Asian character and they went with a Caucasian woman. But with that aside, she does this character justice. Also, most importantly, Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange is excellent in this film. He delivers on every level when it comes to the character. We see him go through this character arc or this character journey from beginning of the film to the end. We see so much complexity within his character as the film goes on, because initially he is this extremely arrogant, rich, obnoxious person who is brilliant in his craft, but he is a terrible people person. A lot of people compare him to Tony Stark in that sense, and he's very similar to Tony Stark, but I would say he's a lot less endearing than Tony Stark. Tony Stark was an egotistical jerk at times, but at least he was able to socialize with people and have a rapport with people and have fun with people. This guy seemed just very cynical and very elitist in his ways. So that's the type of character we're introduced to. We're introduced to this different type of character than obviously we're going to get later on. And he goes through this character journey because, as we've seen from the trailers, and I'm assuming many of you know at home, so this isn't spoiling anything, he does go through a horrific car accident that destroys the use of his hands. And when you're a surgeon, you rely heavily on your hands. Your hands have to be 100% solid. And when he loses this ability, you see that his world kind of comes crashing down around him because his entire identity for him is being this world-class neurosurgeon. And when he loses that, he kind of loses a sense of self. And throughout the film, he has to discover new things about himself. For the bulk of the film, you get a lot of the typical tropes when it comes to the origin stories of these superhero characters. I believe it's going to be the last of the origin story films when it comes to the MCU. And I think for this character, you definitely needed an origin story, because this character is heavily different from the other characters we've seen in the MCU. He's much different than Captain America, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Star-Lord, Ant-Man, Black Widow, all of these characters. He's so much different because he has these abilities that are on a completely different plane than all those other ones. He is dealing with a world beyond worlds. He's dealing with different astral planes. He's dealing with magic and mysticism. There's a lot of new and interesting and complicated concepts that are used in this film, but there is kind of a problem when it comes to explaining these concepts to the audience, because these are very kind of complicated concepts to understand, and they explain it to us, like they break it down for us, but then they move on too quickly. It's for us to digest all of these concepts that they're working with. We need some time to adjust our minds to what they're talking about. It's very complex at times, so I don't think the film does a good job with delivering all of the nuances of this world and all the concepts of this world to us in an easily digestible manner. But if you can just kind of get most of it and move on and just go along with the ride, you're in for a wild ride for a film. This film, visually, is unlike any of the other films in the MCU. It is, in my opinion, probably the most interesting and complex visual film of all of the previous 13 films in the MCU. There's just these mind-bending effects. There's these shifts in time and place and physical concepts that are just unbelievable. And I have to say this, if you can see this film in 3D, if you can see this film in IMAX, I would definitely take that opportunity to do so, because it is going to look amazing visually. Just astonishing visual work. And I would have to give a lot of credit to Scott Derrickson and the special effects team he worked with, the sound design team, the visual effects team, everyone that went into making this film. I have to give them a lot of credit, because it is definitely visually unique from all of the other films, which I'm really, really happy that they took the extra step to make it as unique as they possibly could. Now I want to talk about some negative things. I have to say there is one through-line problem throughout most of the MCU films, and that is the weakness of the development of their villains, and it is heavily evident in this film as well. Mads Mikkelsen, in my opinion, is a world-class actor. He plays villains very, very well, and his character in this film is so underwritten, underutilized, that it is really a shame that for all intents and purposes, they kind of wasted the acting talent of Mads Mikkelsen. This villain is very one-note. He is essentially just there as a plot device to be a villain or a confrontation for the protagonists. There is no development really when it comes to his backstory and his reasons why he wants to do things. We get a little bit of that, but it's really just there just to serve the plot, just to tell us why things are happening now, not why things have gotten to be where they are now. It's really a shame, because he is visually an awesome looking character. He has all of these abilities that are very strong and very powerful. He's a powerful opposing opponent, but he doesn't get a lot of time on screen to really develop him as more than just, like I said, a plot device. So that is kind of an inherent issue in these films. It doesn't take away from the plot mightily, because most of the film is the development of the Doctor Strange character. Also, one of the problems of the film I had is that while the visuals are spectacular, the story itself, in its baseness, it's rather generic. It is the classic origin story, like I talked about before. There is really no risks taken when it comes to the general story or the general structure of the story. We get a lot of time lapse in the story, like when it goes from the character of Dr. Stephen Strange as the neurosurgeon all the way up to this sorcerer type character. We, at home, really don't understand how much time has gone by. I'm assuming years have gone by, considering all of the complexities that are going into what he is doing in the plot. I'm assuming that, but they never specified to us what's going on. So the whole time I'm wondering, has this happened over a year? Has this happened over several years? We need to give us some type of time frame. Also, I have to say, without spoiling any of the plot, the climax in this film is interesting. It's rather different than climaxes tend to be in other superhero films. It's also kind of a little underwhelming for me in a bit. You understand kind of what I mean when you see the film. There are certain things that happen that, while they're interesting, I was kind of expecting a little bit more on a grander scale. The climax isn't that it's bad, it's rather cool. Like I said, Visually, once again, astonishing. With all that being said, I still do really like this film, and I really like that Marvel did take some risks, specifically visually, but still haven't taken the risks when it comes to storytelling that I would like them to do. I would highly recommend people to see it, specifically if you are fans of the other MCU films. Most definitely go check it out. So for me, I think I will have to give this film a 3.7 out of 5 stars. This has been my review of the newest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe titled Doctor Strange, directed by Scott Derrickson. If you like this video, please check out my other film reviews as well as my episode reviews I'm doing for all of the comic book television series.